At 4:12 a.m., under a moonless sky, Ukraine launched one of its most daring drone offensives of the war. More than 100 unmanned aircraft rose silently from hidden airstrips across eastern Ukraine, their engines whispering against the wind. The target was no ordinary building. It was Russia's $3.3 billion command center buried beneath reinforced hills in the Donbass, a sprawling bunker of concrete, antennas, fiber lines, and underground tunnels built to direct entire army groups. Within minutes, radar stations across the border began lighting up as objects appeared from multiple directions: north, south, and west. Russian operators in the command bunker noticed strange signals on their screens but hesitated. For weeks, Ukrainian intelligence had been watching this site, tracing every convoy, every power cable, every radio transmission. Satellite footage showed constant movement. Officers arriving in armored convoys, encrypted communication vans parking beside the structure, and new antennas rising every few days. The command center was supposed to be untouchable, protected by layers of surface-to-air systems and deep earth shielding. But tonight, that illusion would end as the drones crossed the line, jamming pods activated, flooding Russian radar with noise. Dozens of false echoes appeared: ghost aircraft, phantom missiles, meaningless clutter. Operators tried recalibrating systems, but the interference grew worse. Unknown to them, smaller FPV kamikaze drones had already dropped low, flying just above treetop level where radar couldn't see. Larger drones higher up released electronic countermeasures that blinded sensors and disrupted radio frequencies. The entire air defense grid was now chasing illusions. On Russian screens, hundreds of moving dots looked real, but weren't. In the confusion, the true assault force advanced untouched. Then the first wave hit. The sound arrived before the flash, a deep rumble that rolled through the hills, followed by a blinding orange bloom as explosives tore into an outer communications tower. A second blast struck a radar relay, and then another punched straight into a ventilation stack that led deep into the underground bunker. Fire rushed through ducts and maintenance tunnels, igniting fuel lines and melting cables. The operators inside the bunker shouted over alarms. Power flickered, screens went black. As backup generators kicked in, they found their cameras dead, their communications silent, their world collapsing in real time. Outside, Russian air defense crews fired desperately into the sky, tracers arching upward like fireworks, but they were shooting at ghosts. The real drones were already inside the perimeter, navigating through smoke and chaos. Electronic deception had done its job. By the time commanders realized what was happening, the heart of the command center was under direct attack. Ukraine had not only crossed the front, it had broken through the shield of Russian control. Inside the Donbas command center, chaos spread faster than fire. The first explosion had ruptured the main power conduit, and within seconds, a second drone tore through the generator room. Steel doors buckled. Flames roared down the central hallway, melting communication cables that linked the bunker to Russian forward units. Officers shouted in the dark, flashlights cutting through thick smoke. Radios crackled with broken signals, half-sentences, static, and screams. Above ground, a new wave of drones dived at precise angles, guided by satellite positioning. One drone slammed into the antenna field, snapping massive radar dishes like paper. Another hit the fuel depot behind the complex, sending towers of fire hundreds of feet into the air. The shockwave shattered nearby windows, setting off car alarms in villages miles away. The bunker's roof trembled as debris and dirt rained down. Concrete cracked. What was supposed to be an invincible fortress was now a collapsing inferno. Russian defenses scrambled. Soldiers sprinted to anti-air positions, dragging missile crates across the mud. A Pantsir S-1 system fired its cannons into the dark, tracers lighting up the sky, but its radar kept freezing. The Ukrainian jammers were still active, corrupting every lock-on attempt. Surface-to-air missiles streaked upward blindly, detonating in empty air. Nearby, a Buk launcher tried to engage, but its targeting array overloaded and shut down completely. A handful of drones were finally hit, their flaming wreckage crashing into fields, but too late to save the command hub. The assault had already achieved total penetration. For every drone that fell, 2 more slipped through the radar gaps, diving low and fast. Each explosion took out another layer of defense, one for the communications hub, one for the emergency command post, one for the vehicle depot. Russian fighters scrambled from a nearby base, streaking across the sky, but the attack had lasted less than 20 minutes. By the time jets arrived, the damage was irreversible. The destruction didn't stop at the bunker. Shockwaves from the blasts spread outward, knocking out power substations and transmission lines in nearby towns. Entire districts went dark. Civilians woke up to the sound of distant explosions and the eerie glow of fires on the horizon. Windows shattered, power grids failed, and cell towers collapsed under the pressure. Hospitals switched to backup generators, and train lines were frozen mid-route. For 6 hours, the entire region of Belgorod-Donbass border sat in partial blackout. Emergency sirens echoed through the night as local firefighters struggled to reach the site. Even Russian state media couldn't hide the scale. Footage leaked online showing massive plumes of smoke and glowing embers visible from 30 miles away. Some reports claimed the heat could be felt from neighboring towns. It was not just a strike. It was a message written in fire across the heart of Russian command infrastructure. Military analysts called it one of the most effective drone strikes in modern warfare, not for its firepower, but for its precision. The attack didn't aim to kill generals or destroy tanks. It was designed to cripple coordination, to turn a functioning army into isolated fragments. The $3.3 billion command center had been built to withstand missile attacks, but no one anticipated swarms of cheap, silent drones hitting from multiple directions at once. Experts said Ukraine had used a mix of domestically produced drones and Western-assisted targeting data to synchronize the strike. The timing was deliberate. Hours before the attack, Russian generals had reportedly arrived at the site for a high-level briefing. Intelligence suggested Ukraine waited until those officials were gathered, turning the strike into both a tactical and psychological blow. In Moscow, panic disguised itself as denial. The Kremlin immediately called the incident an act of terrorism and accused NATO of direct involvement. State television anchors downplayed the damage, describing it as a minor fire in an administrative facility. But satellite photos told another story. The cratered landscape and charred debris were visible from orbit. Telegram channels run by Russian soldiers leaked footage of the ruins, showing burned vehicles, collapsed tunnels, and emergency crews digging through rubble. Western media outlets amplified the story, framing it as another example of Ukraine's expanding strike capability. Political shockwaves rippled through Russia's defense establishment. Angry lawmakers demanded answers on how dozens of drones had penetrated supposedly secure airspace. The Ministry of Defense quietly ordered an internal review of air defense readiness across all strategic facilities. Putin himself reportedly received a late-night briefing and, according to leaked reports, was visibly shaken at the extent of the failure. This was no random explosion. It was a surgical hit on Russia's command structure. The message was spreading fast. If Ukraine could hit here, it could hit anywhere. By midday, the Russian rescue teams finally reached the blast zone. What they found was worse than initial reports. The once secure $3.3 billion command complex had been reduced to smoking concrete and twisted metal. Entire sections of reinforced tunnels had caved in. Antennas, fiber optic lines, and satellite uplinks were destroyed beyond repair. The massive generator yard, once capable of powering the entire complex for weeks, was a field of blackened wreckage. Inside the collapsed command hall, charred server racks and melted monitors lay scattered among broken steel frames. The bunker's main doors, designed to resist missile impacts, had been blown outward from the inside. Engineers said the structural shock waves were so intense that pressure sensors recorded readings normally associated with earthquakes. Recovery crews worked in silence, pulling cables and clearing debris under the glare of portable floodlights. The deeper they went, the clearer it became. This facility would never operate again. Every backup circuit was fried, every control node disconnected. What was supposed to be the safest command site in eastern Ukraine's war theater had been erased in a single coordinated strike. Across Russia's defense network, confusion spread. Command traffic had to be rerouted through backup nodes hundreds of miles away, slowing coordination across the entire front. Officers scrambled to re-establish encrypted communication lines, but each attempt revealed more missing infrastructure. Satellite reconnaissance confirmed that emergency shelters nearby had been evacuated, and vehicles carrying senior officers were seen fleeing toward Rostov-on-Don. Meanwhile, Ukraine's intelligence units monitored every signal in real time, confirming that the damage had paralyzed entire divisions. On Russian state television, officials tried to assure the public that operations were under control. But intercepted communications painted a different picture: chaos, broken orders, and complete loss of situational awareness. Ukrainian analysts said it would take months, possibly longer, to rebuild what was lost. The command hub had been central to planning air defenses, logistics, and troop rotations across occupied regions. Without it, Russia's field units were blind and vulnerable. The real impact, though, wasn't just tactical, it was psychological. This attack proved that Ukraine could penetrate deep into Russia's most guarded structures and strike with precision. It showed that even billion-dollar fortresses could be defeated by swarms of cheap drones. For Moscow, the message was undeniable: there are no safe zones anymore. Power and protection can no longer be measured by concrete or distance. For Kiev, the operation marked a turning point, a demonstration that technology, intelligence, and timing could outweigh size and resources. Western observers called it the death of distance, the moment when modern warfare officially shifted from brute force to silent precision. As smoke continued to rise from the Donbas horizon, one truth became clear to every commander watching. In this war, the most dangerous weapon isn't the loudest missile or the biggest bomb. It's the quiet machine that arrives unseen, waits for the right moment, and changes the entire balance with a single strike.